Okay, so let me start with a brief presentation just to give you an overview of the company and the product, and then we'll go to the product demonstration. Okay?
Okay.
All right, so what is Kovair? So one way to look at Kovair is it is a box of a number of different applications, both in the areas of application lifecycle management and IT service management. In the LM side, we have actually a couple of different solutions. One for a more traditional development methodology where you have the requirements, test, issues, etc. Also, we have an agile solution where you have basically the agile configurations like the sprint, the product backlogs, the story, user story, epic, features, etc. All of these applications are delivered as 100% web-based, web architected, and typically, though you have everything in a single box, but individual, let's say our requirements management compete very well with a point requirements management solution. But of course, you get the biggest value when you use all of them together. The second component of Kovair is it's a process engine. So we have a process automation engine, which is fine-tuned towards the application lifecycle management and ITSM. So using this, you can actually create multiple processes for your built-in applications. So for Agile, let's say you can create a process for the product backlog. So for example, product backlog of the type bug, when they are submitted, then how they will be flowing through. Or if it is a product backlog of the type, let's say feature or user story, then what will be the flow through. So you can create those multiple different processes and automate them using our Visio-like visual designer. So just by drag and drop, you can create those processes and automate them.
Okay, yeah, I think that was something I had seen in the demo that I liked. Yeah.
Okay, all right. So we'll kind of touch upon that here too, today's demo. It is optional. It is not that you have to use it, but our customers find a lot of value in automating those things. Especially if you have a distributed team, everybody not in a single location, then you don't have to actually babysit it and to kind of pass it to different people. It will automatically do it for you.
Well, and for us, it is possible that each team might not be doing everything exactly the same way. We'll have standards, but we have different code groups based on functionality, and there might be some differences in how we do things based on that functionality. The team makeup might be a little different.
Okay, that's not a problem. Actually, Kovair is extremely configurable, so you can configure it based on your individual team's need. The processes may be a little different. Even the way you kind of categorize may be different.
I'm sorry, your voice cut out there for a second.
Oh, okay. Yeah, can you hear me all right?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So the third component of Kovair is its integration technology. So we have an enterprise service bus integration technology called Omnibus, and using that you can integrate any third-party tool, and it's independent of location, independent of technology, or the hardware platform it runs on, because it uses the web services. So this is actually a little different from the other vendors' integration. Typically, the other integrations are point-to-point. So I integrate my tool with individual tools. So there is a subversion with Eclipse, with ClearCase, or whatever the other tools. So here, actually, we take a different strategy is by creating adapters for each individual tool, which is connected to this bus called Omnibus. So the advantage is that you have a substantially lower effort for creating and maintaining these integrations. Just to give an example, that if you have, let's say, 10 tools, to create a point-to-point integration for all these different tools, you need 45 different integration points. With a service bus, you just need 10 adapters. And also tomorrow, if you want to replace one tool by another tool, let's say today you're using subversion, tomorrow you want to replace it by Perforce. In that case, you just need to replace one adapter in our case, whereas for other cases, you may have to replace all the other integrations with other tools. So that's a big advantage of the ESB technology.
Okay.
And finally, Kovair is also a platform, which basically means that you can create your own business applications, just like any of the built-in applications, and you can do that just by drag and drop without writing a single line of code. As a matter of fact, in Kovair, you do everything by drag and drop. You don't have to write any script or coding. And moreover, it can be process-enabled using our OmniProcess engine, as well as you can integrate with other tools and applications using the Omnibus technology. So these are the four components of Kovair. The Kovair has basically three products. ALM Studio, which is basically for the ALM, and ALM Studio actually comes in two flavors. One is for Agile, another for the more iterative, more traditional development best practices. And then we also have an ITSM Studio, which is basically an implementation of ITIL version 3, with all these service, help desk, incident, problem, change management, etc. So especially
we wouldn't need that.
Right. Okay. And which is used to integrate ALM Studio and ITSM Studio to the other tools including the IDEs like Eclipse or Visual Studio, different configuration tools, subversion, purpose, clear case, modeling tool like rational rows, test automation tool like QTP, Quick Test Pro, etc.
Okay.
All right, so let's quickly go through the ALM application functionality. And these are kind of common for both of our flavors. So capture different requirements, test, etc. So the requirements, you may call it a requirements or product backlog, doesn't matter, from a number of different sources. So you can import from a Word file, Excel file. You can email it. For example, somebody emails a user story that will be automatically parsed and added to Kovair. Also, somebody can submit from a web page. So there are a number of different sources you can capture it.
Okay.
Rich text description. So our user stories are rich text. That means you can format it just like Microsoft Word, embed image in that. So it is not just a plain text, which actually most of the other tools are. We have the versioning, cloning, and reusing of those requirements. So, for example, you can create multiple versions. These are all built in within Kovair. You can even do the branching and merging of those versions for same user story to reuse it for different purposes.
Now, is that done directly within the application, or are you using like subversion or something?
No, that is done within the application itself. It's a built-in within Kovair.
Okay, so you would not use subversion then with Kovair?
That is correct. So for the versioning of the requirements for your user stories, you don't need any other tool. Subversion is only used for the source code management, right? So source code or any kind of artifacts. Those are used for subversion. And you can actually link those to the requirements or user story, but to manage the user stories, you don't need any other software.
Okay.
Okay, so now we also have these views and filters. So when you have thousands of requirements in terms of the user stories, the features, etc., or bugs, etc., so the views and filters allows you to actually quickly focus on only those items which you're interested in at this point of time. Also, we have the process, as we have discussed, and you can create these multiple processes for each of these applications, requirements, tests, and issues, etc. Traceability. This is actually one of our biggest strengths. In ALM, as you possibly know, the traceability is very critical. The change management. You change a user story here, and that breaks the rest of the things because we don't know what are the other user stories that are related to that, what are the test cases related to that, so we are still testing the wrong requirements. So Kovair has extensive traceability with a lot of tools we provide to actually create and manage those traceabilities with the traceability view, metrics view, network diagram, and can do the traceability impact analysis between any two entities basically. And this also traceability includes the traceability between your user stories and the subversion files, for example. Baselining, so in case you use baselining, you can actually create baselines of user stories, multiple baselines, and you can compare them also. Collaborative requirements ranking, and especially if you're doing a product management, this is really interesting, is that what you can do is that you can create some kind of parameters to grade or to rate each of your requirements. And then collaboratively you can find out which requirements are more important than others, so that based on that, then you can actually plan for your sprint. Because one of the problems in sprint management is that how do you find out which requirements are more important so that you can put them in earlier sprint than the later one? So that you can do using this collaborative ranking. You can create as many different Word documents out of Kovair using our Word plugin, so that you can create the Word templates and embed that in that template information which are coming from Kovair. Okay. Finally, we have a very powerful dashboarding capability, so you can see lots of different kinds of metrics, the different kinds of burn down chart, velocity chart, etc., all on the dashboard, and you can create those dashboards very easily just by drag and drop. And finally, the integration, and I'll show you a couple of integrations today, the Subversion and Eclipse, but we have a wide range of integrations actually. So okay. These are many of the integrations we have. These are the different adapters. If you do not see a particular adapter here which you are interested in, it typically takes about 4 calendar weeks to create an adapter. And
what about TIBCO? You familiar with TIBCO tools?
TIBCO, no, we do not have integration with TIBCO. TIBCO is not a development tool, right? So this is more of a, TIBCO is more of a, they are a middleware for the financial institutions. Is that correct?
No, I believe they install as Eclipse plugins, and they're for service-oriented architecture primarily.
TIBCO, okay. So, what particular TIBCO tool are you using?
TIBCO Active Matrix. There are lots of modules, but that's probably the main one.
Active Matrix, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. No, we do not have integration. So, using Active Matrix, what do you do? What is that tool for?
Well, I'm not a developer, so I probably can't go into much more detail than that. But
okay. All right. So,
yeah. I mean, that's something that I know we've already purchased. So.
Okay. We can find out more about what does it do. And as I said, that if you need an adapter, it takes about 4 calendar weeks to do that.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Kovair is delivered 2 ways. One is on-premise perpetual license. We support both named and concurrent users. For smaller companies, we also offer the software as a service, where they share.
We won't be doing that.
Hardware. So you are interested in on-premise, right?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Value proposition, multifunctional, one box, multiple applications. The process automation. This is actually one of our biggest, I would say, differentiator from our competitors. Integration. As a matter of fact, we have some very large integration installations with thousands of users with 14, 15 different tools. So integration is actually one of our crown jewels. And finally, you can expand your existing kind of business applications using Kovair as a platform. So these are the value proposition of Kovair. These are some of our customers. We have a wide range of customers. We corporate, we have the government, DHS, Homeland Security, the California state government, a number of different outsourcing companies. Infosys is actually one of our largest customers with actually 6,000 users currently using, and it's actually to 15,000 users, and number of different product development companies. So I understand UTI will be possibly fall in the product development category. Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Definitely.
All right. Okay, so let's go to the product demo. Any questions so far, Mike?
Nope. So far, so good.
Okay. So one thing I should mention here, Kovair is 100% web-based. I think that possibly almost every tool in with this 2010, everybody will kind of claim that. But Unfortunately, that is not necessarily true for all tools. In ALM, as a matter of fact, you'll find a lot of tools which are really still a client-server tool with a web interface, but that web interface is not necessarily can do everything.
Right.
To do any kind of additional or rather advanced operations or any kind of administration, you possibly need a client application. But you can do everything just by the browser. And we support Firefox, Internet Explorer on Windows, on Mac, on Linux, etc. Okay?
Okay.
All right. So what I'll do, let me just log in as a Agile Manager. As a matter of fact, I'm logging in as a generic name with Agile. And it comes to the home page of this Agile Project Manager, which is really what we call an Agile Project Workbench, which is nothing but a dashboard with a number of different, as you can see, a number of different, what we call the widgets. And that shows me the different matrices. So for example, here is a burn down chart for one sprint. This is for another sprint. These are the product backlogs as distributed by criticality and priority. This is a multi-project burn down chart. This is the velocity graph. These are some of the pie charts, product backlog as distributed over status for the sprint 1 and sprint 2. So the point here I'm trying to make is that this is a dashboard where you can put whatever different kind of metrics or reports you want and put it on your on the front page, on your home page, so that you can actually see those things immediately. And these things are, as a matter of fact, not just a kind of pretty picture. So for example, you see that here, product backlogs as status was, so let's say in process, 6 of them, right? So I can actually click on that, and that opens up a pop-up window to show me all those 6 items which correspond to that particular element. So these are not just images, but you can drill down directly from here to see those items which correspond to those elements.
Okay, that's a nice feature. Yeah.
Okay. Now let me start with, as a matter of fact, with the project information itself. So let's go to, for example, the project detail, the one here, and you can straight go directly from here itself to see the project detail here. So, and these things are completely configurable. So these are based on our best practice implementation for Scrum. Okay. So as you know, and we have seen it many times, every organization implements the Agile in a little bit different way. There is no standard one single Agile, right? Yeah. So I think you know better than anybody else. So basically, this is one such configuration, pretty close to the Scrum, but we are extremely configurable, so you can actually configure it in exactly the way you want with respect to your internal processes. Okay. So these are the detail of the project with the planning with respect to when is the start date, finish date. There are 2 releases here, which is linked with this particular project. Also, there are other items you can have it here. Okay. Now let's start with the. I think that let's start with the product backlog itself. So let's go to the product backlog. The way it is, the hierarchy here is meant is basically with respect to the you have at the top level you have the epic. Under the epic you can have multiple features, and under the features you have different user stories. Okay. So again, that is it is not necessary that you have. You can only use the user stories, but if you want to use that hierarchy of the epic features user stories, that is already built in here. Okay. So
now, is it built in? Are epics treated any differently from stories?
They are all part of the product backlog, right? But
well, what I'm asking, for example, if you're familiar with version 1, you have to go to the epic tab and break down the story from the epic tab, and it's a little bit annoying.
Right. You don't have to do that. You can start from the user stories itself. If you don't want to use the epic, if you don't want to use the features, you don't have to use that. You can straight go and start with the user stories.
And if I have a bunch of stories and I decide, you know what, this one's really an epic, what's involved in converting it to an epic?
Just change the type.
Okay, good.
So for example, here, let me show you, for example, all items. Let's say all open items. So here are the epics, features, and user stories. So these are the epics. And if I decide that one epic is not really an epic, but it's actually a user story, I can just change the type, and it will become a user story. Okay? So do you want to?
Can you do kind of a, let's call it a, let's call them from a story, let's go to encyclopedia and then the library. In other words, there's not just one level that's like epic and then story. It's like epic and then kind of a sub-epic and then story. I mean, is it possible to create like multiple levels?
Oh, absolutely. You create your own types in that case and create that hierarchy. Yes.
Okay. So that's free form. Okay, that's good.
Yeah. And as I said, fixed way of doing things. So we don't want to create a kind of a tab here saying that it's only for epic and only for features, etc. You are free to kind of structure it according to your own needs.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right. So let's start with the sprint here. So the sprint basically can belong to multiple kind of, or rather, a release contains multiple sprints here. So let's look at one of the sprints which we have created here. And what we'll do, that particular sprint, for example, so these are the detail of the sprint. And here are the sprint backlogs. And let's create actually a new backlog. Let's start from there. Okay, so we are creating a user story, let's say. So we can create it within this sprint. So automatically it will create the backlog and also include it in this sprint. But we can also relate some existing backlogs as well. So as you can see here, already some backlogs are already included in that sprint. So let me create a new sprint here, a new backlog here, I'm sorry. So I'm going in to create a new backlog. So let's call it a export contacts to Excel, let's say. That's a backlog. And actually, I'm sorry, let me use we have got different forms here. So let's create a user story here. So every form, every type of backlog has a different kind of form. So let's use that user story form. So it could be also an issue, for example, or an epic or feature, right? So these are the four different types we have. So here, let's say called export contacts to Excel. So type is user story here. And also I can put who is responsible for this one. So I'm just putting, let's say, putting my name here. So this will give me the list of all the users and I can search from there. And here I can have the complete description. And as I said that we have a rich text editor, so you can actually put, for example, all the kind of formatting. Okay, so and also embed images, etc. So let me save this one. So now we have created a new product backlog of the type user story, and also we have linked it to our sprint, right? So here is our 195, right? It just got created. Okay. Now the interesting thing is that now let me go to open that up after I have created it. Let me open that up, and it actually, interestingly, so this is the one I just created. But as you can see, after I created, it actually now have a lot more information available. Okay, so I can now go into the work effort, and as people are working on it, they can put those kinds of work effort, that who has worked on how much hours, etc. All of those things. Also, I've got the effort estimation here, that how much it will be, it will take to do the Okay, sorry. Effort estimation I can do that what will be the story point, etc. So all of those are included as part of this. Once again, if you don't use it, you don't have to use it. But these are already pre-built as part of this configuration using the story point. So did you use, Mike, do you use story points for this?
Yes.
Estimation? Okay.
We probably use our own, our own default numbers.
Okay, so you can always change that. These are some of the kind of standard numbers, but if you want to call the simple as not 4 but 2, the medium not 8 but 6, you can of course change those things.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So the one other thing, which is now these things are pretty standard for Scrum, so I'm not going too much of detail. But where we actually differ, or we have some additional value we bring, is in the process design. So we have actually created a process for these product backlogs, which actually runs, and basically whenever we create a new product backlog, it automatically starts the process. The process is not showing up here, but I can show it in a different list, as a matter of fact. Let me show you another view here, the process view. Oh, okay, so process actually didn't start, I'm sorry. Start process. So now I have to refresh this, so that's it. So oh, I'm sorry, I started the wrong epic process. I should have started the user-defined process, user story process. Anyway, let me start it, the user process. And refresh. Okay, so you see the users process here. So let's go to that process, detail of that one. Make it a little bigger here. So it actually now goes to the product owner for actually checking and reviewing this particular user story, that whether this user story is actually, we should approve it or not. Okay, so the product owner, if I double click that, that actually shows me that who is the product owner. So Sky is the product owner, right? And it has gone to him, and he can now, as a matter of fact, you see the parent fields here, so that basically gives him a way to say that whether he wants to approve it or not. Okay, so he says that, okay, this is approved. So he says that, so he has approved this particular one, and he can complete this task. So once he has done that, so this one is done, right? So if I refresh this process, now it is green, and it has gone to the analyst for rating it, right? So whoever is the analyst, so I'm actually playing all these different roles, but in reality, it should go to the analyst, which is Mark. This is the owner here. So if I log in as Mark, Mark will actually get a task saying that you need to actually rate this one, and here is the rating. Mark says that, okay, this is a must-be one, okay, for example. And he also completes the task, and that moves our product backlog to the next one, which is the estimate for development manager, right? So this product backlog is actually moving from one person to another person, asking them to do certain things, and once they have completed their task, it's moving to the next one, right? And the advantage of that is that you create this process, and now every product backlog will go through that process consistently without anybody babysitting it, right? And nothing kind of falls through the crack. You know exactly it has gone through all these paths, and Sky has done this, Sky has approved it, Mark has rated it is must-have, gone to the development manager, and development manager is now Paul is the development manager, and he's estimating the time, etc. And here is the planned duration. Just to give you an example, he's saying that this will take 30 hours to do it, and he also completes it. And when I refresh it, now it is going to the architect for, so the sprint is already assigned, right? So that is why it has gone to the design architect. So this is how the process actually moves. And by the way, this is just as an example of the process. In your case, the process can be different. So we have this visual designer, which is very easy to use, and just by drag and drop, just like Visio, you can create this process. Okay? So that is one thing we differentiate from any other tool. So that's why I wanted to show you. Now, you may use it, may not use it today, but I'm sure, like many of our customers, eventually they find that there is a lot of value in automating these kind of things. Okay?
Yeah, no, I agree. I like this feature.
Okay, very good. So is there any question about the process, or do you kind of understand how it is working?
No, I think it looks great. One thing I'd like to see, the tools that we're evaluating are more than just for project management. Like we're looking at, I don't know if you're the guy who called me before.
Rajiv?
What was it? Yeah. I don't know if he told you. Oh, well, we're already been looking at some tools.
Okay.
We have some finalists that we've picked out.
Okay.
And the main reason that I'm that I'm looking at this right now is in case something goes wrong. I mean, we don't have final approval for either of these tools yet. A situation could occur, for example, where one tool is seen as won't integrate with something we're using, TIBCO, for example. Another tool perhaps isn't powerful enough in project management and might get kicked out. So, I'm looking for backup options just in case.
Can you tell me what are the tools you are looking at this point of time?
Yes, Rational Team Concert and CollabNet TeamForge.
Okay, Rational Team
Now,
Concert.
one thing both of these tools do, besides just doing the agile process, is they also integrate with source control. In fact, IBM comes with its own source control, the Jazz platform, and CollabNet integrates with Subversion, but they integrate on a lower level than a lot of other products do. So they give they're much more feature-rich than just if you were to use Subversion on its own, for example.
Okay, so let me show you how we do the Subversion integration. So let me go to actually another server. So that is another thing, that our integration is independent of location. As a matter of fact, the server where the Kovair is running and the server where the Subversion is running are two different servers in two different locations. One in California, another is Texas. Okay, so let's say we are using, let's create a new file here, okay, new text file. Let's call it let's say UTI source code implementation.txt, okay. And let me put some text here, some source code here. Bad typing. Some source code here, okay. And now, so here I'm now using the Subversion and using, so this is a tortoise Subversion. I'm sure you're familiar with that, right? This is actually the interface which is integrated with the Windows Explorer for that. So I'm just using that. You can use the directly Subversion interface also. So I'm adding this to Subversion, this file, okay? And then I am doing Subversion commit here, okay? And when I do the Subversion commit, as you know, that it actually creates change set number 217. Right? So that's what Subversion does. That's how it works. So for example, if I refresh it. So now it is added to subversion. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So now if I go to, let me go back to Kovair. So in Kovair, you see at the top all these different tabs we have. So we have the project, the releases, the backlog, sprint, daily scrum meeting, etc. And also we have got some of the tabs, and these tabs what we call the entities. Okay. So some of these entities are related to Agile, like the backlog, sprint, scrum, etc. And some of the entities here, they are what we call the proxy entities, which are equivalent to the object of the external tool, right? So for example, here you see the subversion file, right? Or the SharePoint files, or the Perforce files. So these are really the proxy entities for subversion, for SharePoint, for Perforce, etc. Okay. Similarly, you see the change set here. That is actually, so if I go to the change set here, that is actually the proxy entity for the subversion change set. So for example, here the change set number 217, right? So if I go into that, as a matter of fact shows me. So you see the same change set which is related to the subversion file, the one I just created there. Remember? So yeah. Now what I can actually do is that if I go to the product backlog, right? So let me go to the product backlog, and from the product backlog itself, our product backlog, the same one, the export contacts to Excel, right? Remember the product backlog we just created, and from there we have the link change set, and I can actually relate the change set number, the same 217, the same one. Okay, so I just relate that. So now my product backlog is linked with that 217, and from there, as a matter of fact, this one is related to the same file. So it can be actually multiple files. So in this case, I've just created one file, but typically to implement that product backlog, I have to actually implement 4 or 5 different source files. And all of those source files can be part of this change set, which is linked to that product backlog.
Okay, that went by pretty quick. How did you make the association with the backlog?
So I went to, there are actually a number of different ways to do that, but what I did here is that I went to the product backlog, right? So this is the product backlog. I'm here, the same user story, remember? The one I created, okay?
Right.
So from there, I have a section called the linked change sets, okay?
Right, how did you make that link though?
So from the link change set section, I go to the relate existing, and there I have all these different change sets available.
Okay, so you choose it there. Okay.
Right, and I choose it from there. And I can choose multiple change sets. For example, I choose the change set number 215 also, and then, so now I have got 217, 215 linked with this user story. Okay, and let me also show you if I do the same thing from, so I am an Eclipse developer. So let me go to Eclipse and see it from Eclipse developer's point of view. So I'm in Eclipse, and we have a plugin for Eclipse which actually gives me a menu for Omnibus, right? You see the Omnibus there? And let me connect to Kovair here. So using Eclipse, I'm now connecting to Kovair. So I'm using Eclipse as an interface, using all the Eclipse related styles and everything. So these are the 2 workspaces I have. So this is my Agile workspace, right? And here are all my entities. So for example, if I go to the product backlogs here, I double click that, and that gives me actually, let me go to the user stories here. And here is my user story, the one we are working on, right? And if I right click that and go to the modify product backlog, that actually opens up the detail of this product backlog in a form. Okay, this form, as a matter of fact, I created in Kovair, and this is being actually displayed in Eclipse, in an Eclipse kind of Eclipse style form, right? And if I go to the traceability here is my change set number 215 and 217, right? the same 215 to 17 I just created, right? So this is how, as a matter of fact, a user of Eclipse, the developer, they don't need to come out of Eclipse. They can see all of those things and work all of those things directly from inside Eclipse. Okay?
That's good, yeah.
Okay. Now, is traceability important for you? Do you think that traceability is important?
Absolutely.
Okay. Because that is where actually we have the biggest kind of advantage. So Kovair has a number of different ways to look at traceability. So one of the ways we have already seen that linking with the other items. So we have just linked with 2 chain sets here. It is also linked with, for example, I link it with another feature, for example. So let's link it with feature. So these are all traceability links. So I'm relating it to a feature. So let's say feature number, there are a number of different ways I can actually search it. So for example, I don't want to search for, I filter it only for features, and let's say this contact management, right? So this is, so I'm now linking, I just linked my new product, new user story to the feature.
Now feature you're using as a type, is that, where is that in the hierarchy related to story and epic?
So the feature is between the epic and the user story. So you have the epic, under that you have the feature, under that you have the user stories. At least that is how we have implemented here. In your case, if you don't want the feature, you want the epic directly to the user story, you can do that also.
Okay.
Okay. All right. So I just linked with that. Similarly, I can link it with other items also. Now, when you have got so many different kinds of linking, we also give you a visual way of looking at it. So basically, using the relationship diagram, you can actually see all the relationship between the items in a graphical way, rather than going to each individual section and looking at that. So here is a network diagram, and this is again one of the unique features of Kovair, is that looking at those individual items all related with each other. So let me make it a little bigger here. So here is my user story, right? This is related to the sprint. Remember the sprint we put it with. So this is related to the sprint. And here are chain set number 17, chain set number 15, and here is the feature. Okay? Now, if I double click this chain set number 217, actually that also gives me the source code here. You see the source code? Right? So here is an example of actually we are showing the relationship between the different items when some of the items are actually coming from external tool. In this particular case, this is coming from subversion, right? And visually we can show that. Okay. Now, similarly, we have got yet another view of traceability, and this is the traceability metrics. So if we go to the traceability metrics, and let's look at the user story to chain set, and actually let's go to the, as a matter of fact, this one, let's show only user stories here. And okay, you see here, the rows are the product backlogs, which are user stories, right? All user stories we are saying. And the columns are the chain sets. And here it shows that what are, this is our export, this is our user story, the user story which created, right? This is the same one. And this is now linked with 2 of those chain sets. One is that chain set number 215, another chain set number 217. So we know that there is a code coverage for this user story. So at least some codes are there. Now, at the same time, you may want to find out what are those user stories which does not have a code coverage. And that is actually highlighted here. You see that this one, 193, it does not have a code coverage. I have said that highlight all the orphans. Orphans means that it does not have any relation. Okay?
Right.
That means using this, I can actually find out what are those user stories which do not have any code coverage. And I know that I need to go there and find out what are the codes which are related to these particular user stories. So this one actually allows me to find out what are those items which are orphan. Now here there are certain chain sets which are also orphan. That means those chain sets are not related to any of the user stories. Now this particular interface not only allow me to identify those items, but actually create the relationship also. So for example, between this 193 and this number 3, if I double click this cell, that actually creates the relationship. So now there is a relationship between backlog number 193 and the chain set number 3, and they are no more highlighted, right?
Okay.
So you can create those traceability relations directly from here, or if I want to delete them, I delete them here. Now they are again orphan, right?
Okay. Yeah.
So this is yet another tool, yet another interface for you to actually create and manage your traceability relationship and see it in a number of different ways. And finally, there is another way of looking at the traceability relation, because traceability is such an important thing. We have given so many different ways to look at it. Actually, let me go through start from the project. So here is our project, this agile solution, right? So let me expand that. That shows me our 2 releases here, right? I expand the release, and the release shows me two sprints. I expand the sprint. That gives me my product backlogs, okay? And here is this 195. This is my product backlog which I created, right? I expand that, and that shows me the chain set. And I expand that, that shows me actual file, which is coming from subversion. So here is actually a hierarchy of traceability relations, starting from the project, to the release, to the sprint, to the product backlog, to the chain set, to the subversion file, right? And you can create these kinds of hierarchy very easily, whatever is your particular hierarchy of the traceability relations.
Okay, that sounds good.
All right. Okay, so so there are. Let me ask you this, Mike. Is there something else you would like to kind of see which you have not seen in other tools, which you would like to see, or you have seen in the other tools which you really like? One thing you mentioned about this integration with the other tools which I have shown you, but is there anything else I can show you which is?
Offhand, nothing that I can think of right now. What needs to happen next, basically, is we're going to figure out what we're going to move forward with. If we end up knocking out, the way we do procurement here is we have to have a first choice and a second choice.
Okay.
And then depending on how negotiations go, you know, which choice we end up with.
Okay.
So that's why we had the IBM and the CollabNet products.
Okay. Okay.
If one of those two gets kicked out, I need to be prepared to move forward with another option.
Okay.
Because we have to have 2 choices. So what would happen is if that happened, I would talk to the team and say, okay, I've got another one lined up to put through the process. We would have you respond to a list of requirements and do a group demo for us.
Okay.
If that happens.
Okay, I understand. I know that you are already kind of advanced quite a bit with the Team Concert and CollabNet, Team Forge, right? The thing is that in a number of cases, as a matter of fact, as we speak, we are going through a very, very, I would say, high-profile and very large deal, competing directly with with IBM, for example, and we have much more to offer, both in terms of integration. Actually, Jazz is not a very, I would say, not yet ready for the prime time, and this is not my word. Gartner understands that, and if you want, we have a very good comparison with Jazz, because they cannot actually integrate with the existing tools yet, because they have this concept of OSLC. Unless the tools are compatible to OSLC, you cannot integrate with Jazz. Okay. Ask them how they will integrate with your existing tools. Now, if you don't want any integration with any existing tools, that's a different question. But if you have existing tools, in that case, Jazz may not be able to handle that. So you may want to. Yeah.
Yeah, and that is a question that we're looking into. Mm-hmm.
Yes. So that is where actually Omnibus, Kovair Omnibus is the only solution today in the market having an enterprise service bus. And if you want, we can share some of the integration white papers we have. There are actually 3 different ways you can do integration. One is a point-to-point, as I mentioned. The second one is the single vendor, which IBM actually does. That in that case, you have to actually buy all of their tools. And the third one is the integration middleware, which is our solution. We say that you don't have to buy any of the tools from us. As a matter of fact, you can just buy our Omnibus without buying any of the tools, and we can still integrate your existing tools. And that is actually a much better, I would say, least expensive solution for most of the companies, because you are not kind of tied with one individual vendor and you have to buy all the tools from them. Okay? Right. So I want you to just remember these things as you kind of go forward with your evaluation. And frankly, if you go do an evaluation, you will see that we have a much more to offer than both CollabNet and Team Concert.
Okay. Yeah, if you did have any comparisons with those, that would be handy.
Okay.
You know, something you could send me that I could forward on.
Yeah, sure. Sure. We can share with you our integration technology as against Jazz. Team Concert is actually a very, very, very new product. As a matter of fact, it's not yet fully functional, at least the one we are given and what is available on the internet. There are quite a few bugs and other things, but CollabNet also, CollabNet is actually a pretty mature product, I must say that, Team Forge especially, but they don't have any kind of integration technology like Omnibus or Jazz. That also you need to understand. They have only point-to-point integration with some of the tools, which has got its own kind of problem. So we can share with you those white papers about the integration and about the comparison with other tools. And the only thing I can really tell you and hope for is that you will give us a fair chance and see that what we have to offer. And I'm pretty much sure that once you go through the detail of what we have to offer, you will like much better than the other 2 tools. Okay.
You know, I'll give it a look. Yeah, just send it to me, and we'll see how it goes.
Okay, sure. All right. So thank you very much, Mike. Do you have any other question I can help you with?
I think that should cover it for now.
Okay. And
yeah,
I have actually recorded this one, so what I can do, I can share the recording with you, so that if you want to share with your colleagues, please feel free to do that.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Okay. All right. So thank you very much, Mike, for spending this time with us.
Oh, and thanks very much for demonstrating the product for me. I appreciate it.
All right.
Yeah, it looks good. I mean, it definitely has some features that I haven't seen elsewhere.
Okay. Thank you for that.
All right. Thank you.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye.